Hey, yo, man. YouTube. What up? It's your boy Max Dark, just coming back with another video. And once again, man, oh man, oh man, strange times. I don't know about all of you, but I've been seeing a lot of nonsense, via the post George Floyd murder. And the only questions I've been having as of late is why? And are you gonna? And you're probably like, man, what the hell are you talking about? But just hear me out for a second. So, any extreme that's ever used to stop another extreme usually results in some type of escalating chaos. And some of the things I'm seeing from the left, the woke community, the virtue signalers, there are some battle lines being drawn. And I don't think a lot of these democratic, far left, left-leaning position takers are actually really ready to engage in that. I think there's going to be a lot of ideological warfare taking place over the next few years. And I think out of that, which I hope I'm wrong, but I do believe that you're going to start seeing physical conflicts between these two groups. Do I think there will be like civil war or anything like that? No. But you're going to see flare-ups of the far right being more emboldened. You're going to see the political leanings of the right being more strict. But right now, there is a certain specific segment of society that is fanning this. And to be honest, it's the left. And if this hyperbole and outright stupidity doesn't stop politically and socially, this is going to get out of control. Like, when Black Lives Matter and melanated talking heads and all these other people who say are their, I guess, what's their the term for it? They're allies. I guess that's the word they want to use, which I kind of give them the side eye in regards to that, and I'll discuss that later. The allocation of funds to social programs, the calls for defunding the police, there a lot of people don't like how that sounds, and anyone saying, to abolish the police, you need to stop talking. Don't be an idiot. Do you want Gotham or do you want Toronto? Because if you abolish the police, you're going to have Gotham. Just think about that. Because, I've been speaking to people who do not want their tax dollars. They don't want it going towards the funding of police. I've spoken to some who support a mental health division, which I think would be amazing. I don't think that police should be handling these segments of society. I think those who are more clinically trained in dealing in psychiatry, things like that, and maybe even being part of the police division, that would be good for society. The rehabilitation for youth offenders to become better members of society, show them what growth economics are and how to generate wealth. These are the programs that I think are definitely important and need to be implemented. And I think the government can do that without defunding the police. But I think if you're going to tell taxpayers to allocate funds for things like this, they're going to have a say in that. It's not just the melanated community. I do have some liberal and conservative views, and to be honest, I abhor my tax dollars going towards welfare and things of that nature. I can't stand it. I work in the hydro sector of Ontario. Do not get me started on how some of these programs are used by citizens of Toronto and how they're just getting literally free cash for no reason. But I digress. But I see, the mainstream media like CNN and MSNBC and all these other left-leaning folks, they're spinning the whole narrative. They're making it seem as if this desire to defund the police is wanted by a vast amount of people. It's not true. There have been polls that have been recently taken showing that the Black Lives Matter, for example, is actually more popular than Trump's presidency in numbers compared to about 4 years ago. What's not being explained is the economic and social climate at the time. During that time, back in 2016, police shootings weren't the issue. Mass shootings were the issue. And even though there were melanated people being killed by police, such as Philando Castile, it didn't help that a sniper who was black opened fire on the Dallas police during a Black Lives Matter protest in Castile. That made them have a very negative eye in the public. Now, people were working and they weren't sitting at home due to a pandemic. So if you look at most of the protesting and looting crowd now, it has many different ethnic groups within them. They've been locked up for months due to a pandemic. They haven't been able to generate any income. And now there's a new wave to jump on. It happens all the time. This is how people get attuned to new waves that are either for the moment or cool to do, to post on Instagram and post everywhere else on Facebook and so on and so on. But to me, all these protesters and all these quote unquote allies, to me, it's fake. I don't believe it. Where were you when all these other melanated people were being killed by police? Now, all of a sudden, everyone is woke and everyone understands the issue. That's BS. People either heard of many instances of melanated people and other people being killed by police because you live in the information age. I call that purposeful amnesia. Now, all of a sudden, you are aware of police brutality. Why? Why are you aware now? Now it's cool for corporations to jump on Black Lives Matter when it was a social and political pariah only a few years ago? Why? No, it's not cool to jump on Black Lives Matter. It's just to serve their corporate interests so you can continue to spend commercially with them as the economy recovers. It's just about money. For God's sake, Band-Aid just made a diverse line of Band-Aids. It took you someone to die to do that? Now, all of a sudden, you hear everyone. It's pathetic. So don't fall for the okie doke. Defund the police movement, especially in America, not that popular. No, I've seen polls clearly indicating this is the case. It's popular amongst, the melanated community and maybe the Latino community. But the majority of right-leaning moderates, they don't agree with it. I know it's popular with the Democrats, but they can barely agree on the issue themselves. The demographic who obviously agrees with it thinks that taking tax money from institutions to give to another ethnic demographic will solve their problem. Here's a little tidbit that most Democrats and far left-leaning people don't want you to share or don't want you to even understand. When you reduce police budgets, anytime there's been a reduction, they never let it impact personal day-to-day operations. So the same money that they want to allocate away from police to them, a lot of times, some of that money goes towards all types of other community programs. And those programs work to keep kids out of gangs, stops them from taking drugs, prostitution, other criminal activities. And these police programs that they have with these communities, they work to build trust in the community that the far left and BLM and all these other groups say don't exist. Tell the families of all those other people who are working with these people in these programs that it doesn't work because it helps their kids. Why are you not part of those programs? Maybe those programs need to be brought into your community, but you haven't attempted to try that yet. Your whole speech is defund the police. This is why you look radical. But you see, again, the media doesn't tell you this, especially the left-leaning media. They don't tell you that. They just feed into this mob politics type of attitude that feeds the far left, that feeds the disenfranchised, that feeds all these wokeism type people, the virtuous. It feeds their mentalities. And they go out into the world and think that these things are not happening when they are. Do you know why in Toronto we haven't had the chaos that the Americans have had? Well, firstly, mainly because people here, regardless of their political leanings, and there's many different ones here, we don't want that type of chaos in our city. Even though we may differ on many things politically, socially, nobody wants to see our stores getting burnt down like they are in America. Our politics are tame in comparison to other world governments. But one good thing that I saw is that the cops engaged the protesters with dialogue early when these protests started. And they walked with them to hear their voices, their concerns, and things of that nature. And it was also known that there were agitators, anarchists wanting to cause trouble. They were watching a lot of these guys online and watching some of the commentary that they were planning to come down here and cause some trouble. But the police walking with the protesters, that acted as a deterrent. But hey, you know what? Defund the police. Because the band of angry woke folk, you need this money for, they're not even sure. That doesn't make sense. And a lot of times, this is just proof that some of these folk who are just angry at what's taking place in their communities, they have no clue what they want to do. Defunding the cops is not a policy. That's an opportunistic socio-political shakedown. That's just going to infuriate the far right. It's going to annoy most moderates like me. And the left is just going to rub their hands for your votes. You guys are the pawn on the chessboard. This is why I've always asked people in the melanated community, and they don't really have an answer. They kind of just shrug their shoulders. What have you actually done? Other than go to government and say this is not being done. What have you done? Where are your think tanks made up of community leaders, business people, educators to help solve your own community problems? Where are they? They're not existent. You have had so many examples. A wonderful example is the great Eddie N. Williams. He was one of the first black males in America to run a black-made think tank, which spawned many great political leaders out of it who are melanated. These are the people you should be analyzing for your community change. Not celebrities, not rappers, not actors. These woke ideologues, they're just hijacking the narrative of this, and it's causing nothing but cringe fests all over the place by guilt shaming people, primarily white people, to dig up some manufactured guilt that was never there. Okay, no problem. Since they now have to take responsibility for some aura of power they were unaware of regarding their whiteness, are you going to stop making murder music about shooting other black people? Which seeps into gang culture in many black neighborhoods? Ask NWA if this wasn't the mechanism back in the 80s and the 90s. I was living in these neighborhoods. I've seen it. There were no Crips and Bloods in Toronto until that nonsense came around. Too many people shot to remember over colors. How about, the concept of sleeping with somebody else's wife or husband? The side chick, side dude culture. Creating more single parent homes. That's not a problem, right? Black females over-sexualize themselves for money. which leads to you being the least desirable from what I've seen in regards to dating? How about those reality TV shows that help reinforce negative stereotypes? The mammy, the loud black person, the fighting. Oh, of course you won't stop that, because the money from those same white-owned corporations is too good, right? But you want your white allies, quote unquote, to step up and speak on your behalf. This is the hypocrisy of this movement. Point everyone else, never look in the mirror. There's a lot of things this community needs to clean up, and I never hear them talking about it. But hey, that's wokeism for you. That's what virtue signaling is. Now you have these lockdown white celebrities, quote unquote, and I'm using the term loosely. If you looked at any of my other videos, I don't believe in the terms white or black, but I'll use them for simplicity purposes here. Now you have them making tone-deaf videos they would never make because some jackasses in the internet sphere said this would be a good idea for social justice. No, it isn't.
And I had to really examine myself in the mirror this week because a story came out about me on SNL doing an impression of Chris Rock in blackface. And I was horrified. Not at the fact that people were trying to cancel me or cancel the show, which is scary enough, but the thing that haunted me the most was, how do I say, I love this person? I respect this guy more than I respect most humans. I'm not a racist. I don't feel this.
Excuse me. Hey, excuse me. I work for Black Lives Matter.
Sure.
I'm sorry. I work for Black Lives Matter. I'm sorry that I scared you.
That's okay.
But since I work for that company, my CEO has told me to come out today and to bring you on your knees because you have white privilege. So if they see that a white person is getting on their knees, that shows solidarity for the situation. And could you just please apologize for your white privilege? Just apologize.
I am. I'm trying.
It reeks of virtue signaling, because you are now telling me you have now become aware of police brutality only a few weeks ago. Again, this is unlikely you escape the hyper identity politics that permeate life. You don't escape that. Now I'm seeing articles with police officers regretting taking knees. He was just doing it because he was actually fearing for his life and the life of, well, not his life, but he said he was fearing for the safety of his partners and himself. So it wasn't organic. Look, none of this really is. It just feels like a really bad episode of Black Mirror. I swear to God. Like, look at what the Democrats, like Pelosi, wearing kente cloth and taking knees with the rest of the crew behind her, looking absolutely fly in that kente cloth. Here's a newsflash for you people. The people who wear that, the Ashanti, who my blood comes from, they wear that in Ghana, okay? The Jamaican hierarchy in terms of genes, majority of them come from Ghana and Nigeria. Here's a newsflash for some people, though, who didn't know that Ghana and Nigeria, they had a slave system in place long before the Europeans got there. And it wasn't the same slavery the Europeans had, as they had a more respectable form of what's defined as indentured slavery. You know, they let their slaves read. You know, they even became high-ranking members of society. But when the British came and presented guns and other manufacturing items to them, the traffic of human cargo began from these parts of Africa. For 150 years, they turned their backs on their own people. Nigeria, Senegal, all of these countries in Africa participated in this. So get this thing out of your head that Caucasians were just kidnapping folks all across Africa. That's not what was happening. Many African nations were complicit in it, and they know. And this is where the majority of black people in America and in the Caribbean, they get their genes from these parts of the world. But just a quick history lesson, this is the total tone deafness in regards to people, this woke community, and these virtual signalers. This is what I'm talking about. So in an attempt to look like you're an ally, you're really, what you're showing is that you lack the history and knowledge to actually effectively promote your message. And this is the group BLM, Black Lives Matter, and all these other people on the far left. These are the people you are asking for help? Look, man, you may not like Agent Orange. You may not like Trump, but you'll know exactly what you get with Trump. You know you're going to get a bigot at times. You know you're going to get a straight up capitalist. You know what you're getting with him. Now, the question is, do you trust Biden for police reform? Mr. You aren't black if you don't vote for me. Oh, I'm sorry. He said he's not interested in defunding the police. Why? There's that question again. The largest police union in America, guess who they voted for in 2016? Donald Trump. Why? Second Amendment, tough on crime. See, Biden is trying to court their vote because these same unions backed the Obama and Biden ticket when they first got in office because he helped create laws that provide police immunity from civil and criminal lawsuits. The same cops that are out here shooting melanated people and not going to jail for it. See what I mean? You don't understand the politics, but these are the people that you keep trying to put your faith in. He knows, and when I say he, I mean Biden, he knows that the unions are going to be a major integral force coming for the federal and local elections. So what are you going to do now? You're going to vote for him or are you going to hold your vote? What are the actual options? Because their money as a union talks. They're one of the most powerful sets of unions in the Americas. Local level elections, you'll probably have some sway over them a little bit. Like with Minnesota, they disbanded, or they're planning to basically disband the police force. But we'll have to see what happens with the economic fallout that comes out of it. Because what I basically see out of that is a lot of loss of tax revenue due to the middle and upper class leaving the state. But look, at the federal level, it's Trump or Biden. So are you going to do the same thing that you did last time when it was Trump and Hillary? Are you going to do the two lesser of evils vote type thing again? What are you going to do? Do you see why I say, and what I said in my last video, you have to help you? Because when you have a system, you insulate yourself from these types of politics. In my personal life, I've spoken to many different people from different communities, Asian, Jewish, Indian, and they understand how to leverage their positions regarding politics. The blueprint is the same. Their community leaders work in conjunction with their culture and economic sections of their communities. They leverage themselves politically. They come together. And yeah, they have infighting. Trust me, they do. That's just human nature. But the code stays intact and it doesn't spill over into society the way it does with melanated people. That's because they don't have a code. You don't have a code. And that's a truth that woke and identity polity folks and all the far lefts, they don't want to confront that argument. They never talk about it. So look, that's just my take on the whole situation. It's getting completely out of control. The whole point of this, in terms of change, it's going to take time. We're talking a generation or more before it, and that's if if the melanated quote unquote black community is serious. If they're actually willing to do whatever it takes, because government is not going to fix it. You have to fix it. What I would implore people who want to help, find a positive way to do that. If you're not certain, ask the community, if people in that community, if that is something that they want. But don't become like these woke morons and these virtue signalers out here who are just trying to appease the culture police. Do not do that. Be unapologetic. Show support how you feel comfortable doing so, and make sure you're doing it from a genuine, organic place. That's your right. If you choose not to do so, that's also your right. That's what it is to live inside of a society that's liberal or truly openly democratic. No one should shame you into forcing to jump on Black Lives Matter or to jump on a side. Whether it's the left, whether it's the right, it doesn't matter. Use your mind and make up your own decisions as to how you choose to support someone's movement, if you choose to do so. Because ultimately, it's that community's responsibility to fix it, no one else's. So anyway, if you definitely like the video, please share, subscribe, make your comments down below. I'm definitely looking forward to making some more vids. This topic is getting a little bit dicey and spicy online, so I'll be probably making a few more of these, but definitely leave your comments below and let me know what you think. I am out. Peace in the shadows.